Scarlett is a incredibly fierce competitor. She works harder than probably anybody I know personally in this sport, and there's not a match that you could put Scarlett on the poster where I don't say Scarlett has a chance, 100%.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we are going to have a very special episode, joined by our good friend, Miles Hutton. If you don't know him, you will know him soon because he's currently on a tear through the rankings right now. And he's going to be one of those guys in the very near future. And also, Lucky Wood, the current number one rank Virginia pooler, and she's going to come on and help give us some perspective into some upcoming female matchups, including the one at the Armbender that we talked about previously, and a whole bunch of other topics that I just thought was really interesting after getting a chance to talk to Susie and Scarlett earlier. So, yeah, welcome, guys. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing really well. How are you?
Doing great.
Yeah, I mean, like I was telling Miles earlier, I'm happy it's Friday, though. That's for sure. Yeah. Ready for the weekend. But yeah, no, I'm really excited that the Armbender's finally coming up. Miles, you have a match there. And before we dive into that, though, I do kind of, like I said, I was just so excited about this because I really wanted to get the perspective of someone who's actually, gripped up with one of the competitors. Lucky, actually, before we do that, if you can, because this is the first time you're on the show, if you can just give people a little bit of background about yourself, how long you've been pulling, just what got you into arm wrestling, and just anything else you feel is relevant.
Right. What got me into arm wrestling was actually TikTok. I I I found it in 2022 and went to my first tournament April 2023. The ladies there were so awesome and kind, and they tried to get me on the table, and I was just like, "No, thank you." But afterwards, I was like, I kind of want to try this. I really like this. So I ended up getting a coach and a trainer, and they worked with me for over a year, really. And we traveled and we pulled, and it was great. So I've been in it for a little over 2 years now. I was fortunate enough to be the number one female in Virginia currently. And so here in November, that will probably change. They're getting two weight classes. So I'm super excited for that. Try again at a weight class and have a fellow female
Heck
number
yeah.
one, which will be awesome. So I love the sport. I just have really gotten into it. I've been able to really dive into the female side of things with the Lucky Ones podcast, hosting that and really getting to learn a lot about the all the women that are in the sport. So, self-proclaimed huge fan of female arm wrestling. People always say, when East versus West comes out, oh, the ladies matches is when I go make a sandwich. Like, nah, babes, like the ladies matches is why I buy the pay-per-view. Like, no offense, but I don't know if I would have bought yours if you didn't have a ladies match. So,
I understand. I understand.
but to be fair, I do love all aspects of the sport. There are some great guys in it as well. So as much as I fangirl over the ladies, I do really respect a lot of the guys who are in it, who are working their tails off and providing great matches and take a deep passion and love for the sport as well.
Absolutely. And for you, Lucky, was there like a defining moment where you were just like, yeah, I really want to do this? Or was it just like a buildup of just, the experiences over time that just made you decide that this is something that's really important in my life and I want to base a lot of my life around it? Like you said, with the podcast, it's a lot of work. A lot of people don't
Yeah,
realize it's, a lot of work goes into all that.
sure. Yeah, I don't think there was like one specific moment. I think for me it was like I was to get some pretty significant success early on. So, I went out to California and I won a super match out there against Autumn Cote. Everybody was like, "You're only 2 months in the sport. You're gonna lose." Like, prepare to get absolutely creamed. Like, you learn more from losses than you do wins. And then I won, and then it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of a big deal because everybody had expected me to lose. And then I decided to go down a weight class. And so in order to do that, because I wanted to be in that 154 class, I had to lose 116 pounds to make that happen. And I set on a year journey to do that. And so then hitting each milestone in that moment was just like, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And I was still able to find success on the table. I found a lot of losses, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. There was a lot of times I went to tournaments and I was like, "Oh, man." And, but it was just the enjoyment of being around the people that were also in the sports, the encouragement from these ladies. I got to meet some incredible ladies early on, Angie, Sarah Backman, and, Gabby. I met her in January, and, and then, of course, the ladies who are part of the podcast as well. Sarah Latona's been amazing. There's just too many to mention, really. So I think just those little things of finding success on the table, finding success in my body goals, and then finding success in relationships just really kept me going through
Yeah.
to this point.
That's so cool to hear because one of the things I feel like is pretty common, or pretty core to arm wrestling and the experience of arm wrestling is, people say a lot, about how much they love arm wrestling itself, but usually it's the community that keeps them just really, really engaged and involved with it. But yeah, I totally feel you on the whole, learning a lot through losses because if anyone's the master of that, it's me. I think Miles here is the only one that's only new person that's allergic to losing.
No, 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 I'm not allergic to losing.
Yeah. No, but no, that's really awesome to hear. There's so much to dive into on there, but again, like I said, I really kind of want to get into the arm bender because it's been so obviously on my mind. It's completely dominated everything I've done on pretty much over the last year. And honestly, it's what got me into the whole YouTube scene. Is my whole YouTube channel launched off of 2025 Armbender, a video I wanted to do. So just kind of like setting the stage. Scarlett versus Susie. I don't know if you've ever got a chance to grip up with Susie, but I know you've definitely gripped up with Scarlett. So if you can just kind of give us like your just general perspective on the match and where you see the strengths and weaknesses, and then we can kind of like dive in a little bit deeper from there.
For sure. So, I will be 100%, biased in this. I don't get to be on my show, so I'm going to use your show to be able to do
Yep,
it.
I do the same thing. It's
So,
all good.
I will say that when you look at Susie versus Scarlett, the smart bet is Susie. And I recognize that 100%. Like, she is a amazing athlete. She is a strong competitor. She has some very impressive wins. When you look at, but to be fair, when you look at anybody from, I would say, the south of North America, forgetting Canada part, but when you're looking at the US of A, when you put us against anybody from somebody with a different flag next to their name, chances are the smart bet is going to be the other person just because of their training and what they have available to them and how seriously they do take this sport. I would say 100% backing up that when I look at Scarlett, I do not see what other people see, and that is somebody who's going to get crushed in the armbender. Scarlett is a incredibly fierce competitor. She works harder than probably anybody I know personally in this sport, and there's not a match that you could put Scarlett on the poster where I don't say Scarlett has a chance. 100%. She is, and it might be naive to think that way. It might be silly to think that way, but I don't care. I've seen Scarlett hold up grown men and grown women on her elbow
Yeah.
and not break. And barring something happening mentally, physically, this girl is going to either walk away with a win or walking away causing Susie to sweat. Because and it's not going to be an easy day for Susie. So, Scarlett can handle big hands. Scarlett can handle strong women. Scarlett can handle pretty much anything you throw at her because she just has the tenacity and the mentality to be great. And I'm really excited for this match so that people can see that.
I'm really excited to see what Scarlett can do because one of my favorite moments of the whole interview series was when she, gave the line that I posted as like the hook for the video with her interview, where she's just like, she won't beat my dedication, because you could like see the intensity kind of like burning in her eye. Like she was dead serious about that. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that. And I wanted to ask too, Miles, you have like one of the best eyes I know, for arm wrestling, and I just wanted to see
Hmm.
what you think of this match too. I think when we spoke about it before, you brought up a good point that some people might not be thinking of because they usually don't think of it in a female matchup, and you said that Susie's hand.
Right. So the hand can play a lot of factors, and it can win or lose matches. And a lot of times when you go against an opponent with a big hand, sometimes it's the hand will carry on where the arm falls short, and sometimes you can level the playing field if you can take away the hand, and then it's just arm on arm. And I think if Susie's hand is what I kind of imagine it to be, then I would see where Scarlett's going to have to disable that hand and take it out of the equation, or she has to work the hand to her advantage, where it's a different grip, it's a different setup. You change something to make it uncomfortable if you can't disarm the hand. So, um, yeah, that's kind of how I see it going. I mean, clearly Susie has quite a few accolades, and she's got great training up there, with Sandris and the Europeans. And so I I don't question what she can do. And, Scarlett works with Cody, and Cody's where he's at for a reason.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if it is about the hand, then it'll come down to what you can do with it.
Right. And, one thing that it sounds like, just from what you were saying, Lucky, is that you don't necessarily think that Scarlett's going to be out of it in terms of a strength perspective. Like you think that the strength will be there for sure. And so one of the things that I was really looking at with this match myself personally was Susie's low hand threat. Especially again that large hand, low hand always feels so bad. Like when for me is like me and Miles are kind of opposites in terms of the way our hands and builds are. Where I have a smaller than average hand for my class, and Miles has a super heavyweight hand. But when someone like him, yeah, exactly. When someone like him low hands me, it feels like, oh man, like I'm really gonna have to do something outside the box to get what I want. So I was just curious, like what you thought, because I think it's almost guaranteed, especially with the fact that Susie is super tall. She's I don't know the exact height, but I mean, and she makes I know Carolina. Well, she makes Carolina look short in pictures. So she's pretty tall, and so I think it's almost certainly that she's almost gonna have to be in a low hand position, and
Right.
just like how you think Scarlett might handle that, if she's comfortable with going straight to the strap and not even trying to fight without it, or just what you think there.
Man, I wish I could have worked with Scarlett in the strap a little bit for this match. That's how I feel about it. But Scarlett's strap game is very legit. I think that if she can get there, if she needs to get there, to go there, um, you know, when you go into a strap, it really changes the game. They always say the strap tells no lies. But I will say too, with Scarlett, her micro adjustments are insane. She can be an inch from the pad and make a micro adjustment and change the complete trajectory of the match. So, when it comes to her side pressure, it truly is impressive for anyone. I don't not just for a girl her size, not just for a woman, like her side pressure is impressive, period. So I would say that she definitely has that going for her, and also the ability to make those adjustments because she lives on the table. She and Cody truly do. They live on the table, and she knows 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and she gonna fight like anything to get to her side and make that pin happen.
I would say
Her
so.
and
Like,
Michelle Dugan, sorry,
no, go ahead, Miles.
her and Michelle Dugan had a battle at that round robin, wasn't it, Lucky? Or who
Was it
did
Well,
she end
Michelle
up
or
with?
was it
it was
Jesse?
Kim Wood. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
so
that's who
Michelle
that
was
was.
there. They after pulled
Hmm.
together. So, but yes, her and Kim Wood, they went back and forth. But yeah, Kim again, was definitely on the heavier side
Mm-hmm.
of. So we didn't really do like a this is what weight we're gonna be. We kind of just showed up and enjoyed
Okay,
our
yep.
life. And so, but Kim is taller too and has
Mm-hmm.
like a much longer lever than Scarlett. But yeah, I mean, but then again, that was Scarlett 2 months ago, and I mean, I've seen Scarlett 2 weeks like, apart from each other, and it's a whole different polar. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
Scarlett who I saw in the Arnold's last February, March is not the Scarlett I saw in December, and it won't be the Scarlett that shows up in February. She's crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, and I love what I heard, I think I saw a comment somewhere where they said, if you're in the southeast of the U.S. and you're gonna arm wrestle someone and their last name is Wood, then you're probably gonna lose. Like, it just seems like there's that whole cool dynamic of just all the Wood arm wrestlers.
Right.
So that was super cool. But yeah, no, I definitely saw what you were saying. I think Scarlett's side pressure is just flat out impressive, irregardless, because some of the way that she was manhandling people is really impressive. And where that, like you said, those adjustments where it looks like it might be a little bit bad, and then she moves a little bit, then all of a sudden she has access to her side pressure. And that's one cool thing that I've noticed too with arm wrestling getting more popular, younger and younger people coming in. These people who are starting younger, I think one of the big advantages that we are seeing is like those ability to like intuitively arm wrestle and make those micro adjustments you're talking about. So I really see that in Scarlett and Cody. And obviously their team, if they know how to do something, is build side pressure, because they're just whacking people. So it's awesome to see. But I also think that one of the aspects of this match too that might be not obvious to a lot of people, especially if you haven't like, it might be if you watched the Susie interview I did and seeing Susie's personality a little bit, but I think that I think she's gonna try to play mind games and get into Scarlett's head. And
Good luck. I've been bullying Scarlett for 2 years, and I've yet to get into her head.
yeah.
So I will say that Susie might have hit a little roadblock speed bump with that plan, because I mean, Scarlett, like, off the table, Scarlett could not care less what you have to say. She gonna do her talking and show up on the table. But I will say and that's something though that I really respect about Susie. Like, I love her gumption and I love her attitude towards the sport. Again, that's just something that when you have a different flag than the US flag next to your name, you not only bring the attitude, but you bring the action to back it up. And so I love Susie. I watched a few of her matches. I really respect her as a puller. She's incredibly strong and incredibly talented, and I'm glad she's in our sport 100%. Like, she really is a really great female athlete for sure. And I'm kind of bummed that they're going against each other because I would love to root for both.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm so happy for both too, because I can root for both because this is going to be a great female match to showcase both of them. And whatever way it ends up, it's not really a lose lose for anybody, and it's definitely not a lose lose for the audience.
No, it's a big win for everybody. And I think too, just the amount of excitement that that these matches have generated for the armbender is going to lead to more female matches being on the card. So I think that's going to be because I mean, I don't see how like even only Sandris and Adams matches have kind of generated more hits and more views and more commentary. But honestly, Scarlett and Susie's episodes and matches and just all the posts that were made got shared more than any other post. I saw it in other people's stories. People I don't even know, don't even look like they're arm wrestlers. They were excited about it. So
Right?
I think that this is a great thing, and it could be an amazing way to really launch it, especially up here in the Northwest, because there's not a lot. So up in the Northwest, and I'm sure you probably noticed there are female competitors, but it's much thinner here. We don't
Right.
really have the depth. I mean, right now there's some exciting matches coming up that they're having some troubles with finding opponents, and because they really want people. So but it's slowly but surely it's definitely growing. And one thing that I definitely wanted to touch on too, outside of the armbender match, is kind of a question, and it's a tough question, I know, because there's not like any really one thing you can put on it, but if we're going to grow female arm wrestling as a sport, what do you think the roadblocks are currently? Do you think it's more just the idea of the fact of arm wrestling being kind of like a, kind of hyper aggressive from an outsider's perspective, and like a strength sport? Is it like an intimidation factor? Is there ways to be more welcoming, or is there other things that we might be missing in terms of getting more females and keeping them interested?
Right. All of the above. I will say that it's hard to pinpoint one thing because we talk about it on the show, obviously, because we really do want to continue to grow the sport, and we ask ladies, okay, what got you into it? And a lot of times it, was a significant other that decided to pull, and then, they came along, and then, somebody took them under their wing, male or female, not just another female, male or female, and really got them into it and really showed them that, yes, there's not gonna be money, there's not gonna be fame, but there's gonna be family, and there's gonna be a fun time, and just enjoy it for what it is. And then you have those
Mhm.
people that golden ticket or the yellow brick road, your Courtney Hikes came out of nowhere, your Jocelyn Berson came out of nowhere, and they skyrocketed. Sarah Backman, and not that she came out of nowhere, but, she came to the United States and then decided to get back into it, and she blew up. So, I would say that, and I honestly just kind of figured this out, like, a couple weeks ago, so bear with me, it does I haven't put a ribbon on this yet, but I truly believe that one of the big roadblocks is that we are not taking chances on no names. So, like, when we look at these ladies who are giving their all, who are really working, who are showing up to practice every single week, and are really, like, you can see that difference from their first tournament at, some dive bar to their last tournament at some dive bar, and you just, okay, that's cool, and then you ignore it and you move, and then, well, why are they killing themselves for this sport when, okay, because I don't have a name yet, I'm being ignored. So I true like, when you send people out to quote unquote recruit or look for things, like, even though you've never heard of them, and partially also, ladies, get your stuff out there. Like,
Yeah.
post your videos, post your wins, post even your losses, because I'm telling you, like, my losses against Scarlett, they're losses, but they impressive. I held her, dang it. So post your wins, post your losses. If you are really looking for those people to say, "Hey, we want you for this match. We want you for this match," like, you're as much responsible of putting yourself out there as somebody is to find you.
Yes.
So take your risk. Take the risk. Promoters, take the risk on the no name. No names, take the risk and put yourself out there. I think that that's one of the biggest setbacks.
I do think so. And Miles, I think you have a good perspective on this too. Because, there's different ways of putting yourself out there. There's, kind of like my methodology where I will share everything and I will push everything out there, and I will, in a good, respectful, sporting way, I will, talk shit left and right just to, get people riled up. And that's why everyone in Canada wants to beat me, because I made that video drinking a bottle of maple syrup, and it's just doing stupid little stuff like that. Miles, as much as I know we've talked about it before where, like, I'd like to see you putting more stuff out there.
Right.
You kind of do it in your own way where, like, you're really good at, like, keeping up, like, friendships, and, you talk to a lot of people behind this, maybe not like, making posts and stuff on Facebook, but you make sure to, talk to the people you need to talk to, and, keep up relationships. So, before I kind of dive into the deeper question I have on this, or the deeper kind of topic, I just wanted to see what you think, Miles. Like, do you think, like, you have to, like, really, really, really be pushing yourself out there like that? Do you like the idea, like your method, where, it's be a little bit more subtle about it, and just make sure you're talking to the right people? And, like, what are your kind of decisions around keeping your cards a little bit closer to hand and not showing so much, and just, like I said, going through the conversation?
Right. So for me, like the way that I've been is I don't like talking a lot of shit for the simple fact of, you know, there's those guys, they talk a lot of shit. Game time shows up, and I mean, they absolutely get exploded out of the water. And then you've shown your ass and you look like a doofus, depending on how much stuff you say. And it's not who I am. It's just not my image. And so what I've done is, win or lose, I like say, after tournaments or whatever, like, I'm talking to people before the tournaments, before super matches, whatever. We're sitting there, we're shooting the shit, we're getting along and having a good time. And then the match comes around, and we have it out. And then after, when all the pulling's done and business can then get set aside, then I'm over there and it's like, hey, you guys if it was a guy that lost to me or something, then I'm over there on the side table going, hey, next time try this, and we're sitting here and we're swapping secrets, and we're trying to help each other get better, because the only way we're going to get better is if someone else gets better, because then we've got somewhere else to strive. If we sit there and just keep beating everything, what the hell are we going to pull? Ourselves? I mean, and so that's one thing that people have seemed to always come to me is, they appreciate how humble I am and kind of quiet, soft spoken, whatever. And, they appreciate the fact that I don't care who it is, I'll pull with anyone. I'll sit there, I'll take time out of my day to sit there and help you out with something, or just shoot the shit, or have a beer, or whatever, and just kind of relay something. I mean, I haven't been in the sport all that long, just over 2 years, but I mean, I've gripped up with tons of hands, and I've pulled a bunch of events, and I've learned quite a bit, and I'm still learning, but what I have learned, people would like to share. So I have no problem sharing that. And I
Absolutely,
think
yeah.
that's something that helps.
It does. It does a lot, and I think like your reputation, is super positive, and I think that's kind of like what carries it because of that. Like a lot of people, when someone asks someone, "What do you think about this matchup?" and they're like, "Oh, it's not so good." Okay, well, who else do you think? I think a lot of people just naturally throw your name in the hat because one, they know that you're good enough to kind of like it. There's like an unknown there. You're good enough. We can kind of throw you against anyone, and you're
Hmm.
probably going to do okay. But also, just again, just being really likable and being
Hmm.
open to socializing is like important. Like
Right.
even if you have a little bit of an abrasive personality,
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean you can't, just be supportive. Like you said,
Right.
take someone to the side and be like, hey, you did this, maybe try this or something. And just, it doesn't, have to be like super like happy, big smile on your face all the time or whatever. But I do think that is important. But the kind of deeper topic, and Lucky, I wondered it too, because I think you're really good at this. But one thing that I see a lot, and this is throughout arm wrestling, male and female, is a lot of people are really like they're afraid to kind of be a little bit of a character, afraid to be kind of like, bigger personality or to put themselves out there, or even, they'll share like a video of them doing a lift or something every once in a while, but they don't really like to share their matches. And it just seems odd to me where like in any other discipline, like body, especially bodybuilding, like someone works out for 2 weeks and they're posting like they're a pro, like recording all their workouts and doing everything, and like, but that's like the same almost in any sport. People record everything, they put it up. But for some reason in arm wrestling, so many people, even really good, like really like almost like top level people, you never hear from until they compete because they never put anything out. And I'm just wondering, have you talked to people and kind of have an idea of why this is happening? Do you have like a theory, like why just people are so hesitant to almost like share arm wrestling?
I think if you ask any of the people who don't post, they always say, "Well, because I'm busy training." And so, like, and that's fair, and I think a lot of it too is, like, for me specifically, like, I'm very much the same way, is I don't unless it's Scarlett or, somebody here in Virginia who I have a face-to-face real relationship with, like, I don't talk about the matches. Like, I'm just like, hey, good luck. Let's hope we both do well. Let's not get injured, because I know for a fact that it's still a 50-50 chance that I'm walking away with the W. So just, like, I think there's a way to be a character without being a heel, and we just haven't figured that out yet. And especially in this sport, we just, we drag the heels through the mud. Like, why would anybody want that? Like, I see the comments that people put on, people who will say, "Oh, I don't care." And we know you don't, but like, you got way thicker skin than I do. And so, I think that if it's something that people do appreciate of the sport and that does sell pay-per-views, then I feel like the comment section needs to settle down
Yeah.
a little bit, because you're not gonna get more of it by constantly tearing down and hitting below the belt and ripping it apart, because that tells them that that's not what you want and that's not what the community wants, so why would more people do it?
Yeah.
So, that's that I as far as the theory of why people don't, I think that it's just the fact that, like, it's not the norm in our sport, and people tend I don't think it does any more I don't think it harms our sport, but I don't think it grows our sport either, and so, it's just your personal preference, and I think there's just more people that prefer not to, and just prefer to show up and do their talking on the table.
Yeah, I do feel like some of that stuff though that you mentioned, like getting like the negative comments and things like that. I think that's also just a testament to the growth of the sport because as anything grows and gets more exposure, then there's just more fans. And of course, with more fans, even though they absolutely love the sport and they watch every little thing that happens, there's just certain people that can't help themselves. And they have like 10 fake Facebook profiles or whatever, and they just want on and for some reason they just like to stir the pot or like
Sure,
troll. And
sure.
I think that that's
Down.
seeing that is actually kind of a good thing. So it means that, we're growing.
For
But
sure.
I also think part of the game in today's day and age, especially in growing the sport, is just getting it like if everyone who was involved like shared one or two things a month, whether it's a practice pool or whatever, like it starts hitting regular people's feeds, and then it starts becoming normalized because it's not like this. Because I remember when I first start like the first year, and it's not even that long ago, it was 2022. When I told people I was getting into arm wrestling, and they're like, "What do you mean getting into it? Like you're going to bars and arm wrestling people?" And I'm like, "Well, kinda, yeah, but what I mean is like as a sport, like professionally." And they're like, "Oh, there is professional arm wrestling." And I was
Right.
like, well, but I think also it has grown to the point now to where most people that I talk to have at least been exposed in some way to professional arm wrestling and they kind of understand that it's a thing. So that's good. But also I think we haven't like crossed over that barrier of normalizing it to where people would feel comfortable just walking up or saying something like, "Oh, I've seen that somewhere," or So I think we're getting close to that point. But I would like to see because like when I do matches, especially or I try to get information on female matches, it's super hard because I think like you are one of the few people, and then there for a while in the past, I might be saying her last name wrong, but there was what was her name, Elizabeth Mochek.
Yeah, yeah,
She was posting a lot, and, I think some of those comments probably got to her, and that's why we don't see as much of her now, but, it's really hard to do research because, again, a lot of people don't share, and especially on the female side, and I'd like to see just more of that because I think that's actually key to our growing the sport is it not just being like what a couple different people said before is almost like a tag along sports, like my husband does it, so I do it too, or my brother does it, or someone in your family or your boyfriend or whoever does it. So now you tag along and you do it for fun, like because I think once people do try it, like the bug bites them most of the time, and they stay in there. So
definitely.
do you think that or is that a problem for you too when you're trying to do research on people? Because I know you have an upcoming match here. I think your next one is Allison Musker, right? Is that still on this month?
Yeah, I'll
Okay, cool. I
be
I
flying
wasn't
out
sure
to
'cause it's in
Minnesota.
Minnesota, so I
Yeah,
wasn't sure if they were gonna keep doing it or with everything going on there, but
right,
yeah.
yeah, I fly into Minneapolis on the 20th, so and then it's about 30 minutes away, so hopefully, all goes well with that. But yeah, I'm still planning on going and attending, and yeah, I've seen a couple of matches on her, fortunately, because I know people that she's pulled, like, they have her matches pulled, and that's the other thing is, like, really branching out and, like, okay, it becomes like the 7 degrees of meeting somebody is like, I'm gonna be friends then because they're friends with them because they're friends with them, and then I can see her.
Right.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, yeah, I think and that's what I'm saying, like, ladies, just post it, like, I mean, turn off the comments if you're that worried about it, but post it, put yourself out there 100% because you never know who's looking, you never know who's gonna drop your name somewhere, and if you are looking for those opportunities, that's a great way to be able to get that notice and to, continue to build because there are people who are local to me that, they're like, "Oh, I wanna come with you to a practice." And I'm like, "Cool, let's go." And then, that there's another one that we lassoed in. So, yeah, I try to do a post on my personal at the same time as posting on, like, the group pages and things like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's really helpful because a lot of, what I know and learn and see, on a regular basis when it comes to female arm wrestling is because of things that you post. So that helps a lot. Just talking about your upcoming match here, you're probably towards the end of your prep now. So you're feeling good and feeling ready and excited for
Oh,
this
yeah.
match. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited. I love the fact that I've never gripped up with her, I've never met her. That's what I'm super excited about. Like, and anybody over here in the Southeast region will tell you, like, we show up to pull the same 4 or 5 women. And it doesn't matter if it's North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Alabama, like, we all there.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have a super match with somebody who I've never met, haven't gripped up with, don't know anything about, is super exciting for me, and so I've done what I can do as far as making sure that hands ready, my biceps ready, and, have a few different lanes that I go down. I'll try and then see where we end up.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I kind of tried to look into this a little bit, but I couldn't find anything on Allison. So I was like, oh, I'm not really too sure about how this match is going to go. Have you, Miles, seen anything on Allison Musker?
No, I don't believe so.
What kind of style of puller is she? Is she inside, outside? Seems like most
The
women tend to be a
matches
little bit
I
more
saw were
versatile.
mostly top roll, so
Yeah.
I puller, so but, that's, again, not really surprising when it comes to, females love that top roll.
Oh yeah. Getting stuck in those long drawn out wars. I feel like that's why some of the female matches are some of my favorite. Like I mentioned earlier, Carolina, like so many of her matches are just like these, just like, how are you still holding on? Like, and it just always happens. And it's just, man,
Yeah.
and it's rough. And then there's a lot of really exciting, I think, females coming up right now. Like, I think Ayane, I don't
Tanaka.
get Tanaka, is it Tanaka or Tan? Uh, we'll go.
I need to
I
look
know it's
at it.
Ayane though.
Yeah,
Yeah. So she looks insanely good. Like she gave
Victoria.
her name
Victoria?
from yeah, she gave Victoria a
Or
heck of a
Demetra.
fight. And I think Demetra might be like, other than Fia is just like up there as like one of the best pound for pound female arm wrestlers. And that was an I mean, I have my thoughts about that match. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like Ayana got a little bit robbed in the calls on that match for sure, but hopefully we see a rematch of that soon. But man, we have a lot of really cool names up in the top levels of female arm wrestling. And I'm wondering, for you, especially because here in the US, the numbers being smaller, usually there's, like you said, like one or sometimes two weight classes. But then when you see like at this world level, a lot of them get spread out, and like some of them are like, there's like that, like there's under 120-pound weight classes. There's like 11 weight classes or something. And they're so spread out. So we don't really see the matches that we're used to. Like we're not seeing Demetrina versus like, Fia, like it's like, oh, or like against Sarah. And it's like, we really want to see that, but they're so kind of like spread out. But do you think that like that's kind of like a good thing? Or do you think that, there should be fewer just until the numbers kind of catch up to where it makes more sense to have such spread out weight classes?
In the US, I think obviously, like, I would love for the lighter weight women to have their classes. I really feel like we have missed an opportunity to see some amazing women matches because, a 110 woman against a 250 woman is said to go one way. And it's fair because it's a 40-pound difference. But,
Mhm.
you get those 2 at 210 together, like, you're looking at those long, drawn out FIA type matches. Mm, and so I feel like we have missed out on the opportunity to have some really incredible matches because of it, but at the same time, like, you have to especially as a promoter, you have to appeal to your demographic, and the ladies who show up are the ladies who are going to get the classes that they are showing up for. And so it's one of those catch-22 things, and I see it from both sides. I really do, and I do feel bad for the fact that we've missed out. I think on a world level, Fia pulls Rosa. They've had 2 matches and it went both ways. both times they matched up with each other. Fia took it one time, Rosa took it another, and it's one of those things where, like, when you get to a certain level, weight really doesn't matter, in my opinion, because you're looking at other things like technique, and you're looking at other things like endurance and table IQ. And so but again, Fia is absolutely a monster, and she could take on anybody. um and give them a match, not necessarily win, but definitely give them a match. And so I think when you're looking at the higher levels of these ladies who are absolute units, you can kind of take the weight factor out of it. But when you're looking at these ladies who are even a national level, yeah, go ahead and stick them in their weight class, and then find those monsters in their weight class, and then really give them a chance to grow within that, and stop just throwing them to an open class or a class of a 154 weight gap.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that we see here a lot, Miles, and you probably know too,
Hmm.
is like here in Montana, like one of our more committed and consistent poolers is Sierra Covert, and we have more like Leif's. I think Tanya is her name. She looked
Tanya.
really good. Yeah, she looked really good. But Sierra's like very very small, petite, but she's always having to pool just much larger opponents. And I
And the
don't know
men's
her
class
natural
too.
weight. Yeah, and the men's class, because she might only have one opponent. She usually pulls, like whichever junior kind of comes up and pulls in the adult class, and then she pulls usually the same two, but now Tanya's here, so she'll have another opponent. But and I think that is really rough again, because I don't know her weight, but she looked like she's definitely like, I think like at most 140, probably, like, was she's very short. Like she must be like 5 foot even, or maybe
Ooh,
something. she's
somewhere in
she's
there.
she's very petite, so I definitely see that. And so maybe just like as a promoter, you can put on the poster maybe like multiple classes, and then it's like, oh, if there's not at least X number of opponents, then we'll fill up.
Right.
So that gives
Right.
more people the opportunity, because then, yeah, if they just see that there is a class for them, then they might come where they wouldn't have come
Right.
before. So I think
For
that's a
sure.
really good
Right.
point. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. But
Yeah,
one of my yeah, go ahead, Miles.
I've been to a couple tournaments where the women's class was 0 to 200, and it's like, ooh, so you're sitting there reffing, and then all of a sudden here comes this little itty bitty thing, might be 17 years old, and yep, we're all good. Out comes a giant, and it's like, little kid looks at me, he's like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, good luck. Stay tight. Watch your hand. That's all I can tell you. It's like,
Yeah,
boy, we got to figure this out a little bit more. But
for
like,
sure.
I think that's part of what it is. And like you said, Andrew, if you can at least put it out there that there is multiple classes, depending on the audience or the attendance, then you can bring out the classes. If you don't quite have enough, all right, fine, you make do with what you got. But if you see somewhere where, okay, it is 0 to 120, 120 to 154, something like that. So then it at least incentivizes, and it might help take away some of the spooks and the jitters, you know, that might help bring somebody out.
For sure.
Yeah, I totally get that, because there were some tournaments myself that I didn't go to because the classes were like non-standard. They were like I would have had to I'd be arm wrestling in a class where like there would be people 30 pounds lighter than me, but then also 30 pounds heavier than me. So I was just like, do I really want to, like, because you could go in and maybe get like an easy road up to the finals, or maybe you go in and just get blasted by two 250-pound guys. So it's like, it is frustrating. I do guarantee that if people did just see that was there, then it would at least pull out a few people that were maybe on the fence. Like, well, it's like, oh yeah, like I don't want to arm wrestle someone who's, like Miles said, over 200 pounds if I'm 120 pounds. So that totally makes sense. But one thing I did want to ask everyone too is just like, do you have like a dream female kind of like matchup right now? Because for me, it would actually be Fia versus Egle. That's the match I
Ooh,
really want to see.
That'd be a good match.
that would be a really good match.
Yeah, I just
So,
feel like that would be a burner. Like I feel like I could see Fia just stop, like Egley getting the hit over and winning maybe center, but then Fia putting the brakes on, and then it just being like this, like absolute burner.
See, yeah, I wonder if Egley can slow her down. It's fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is true too. Yeah, there's the speed factor.
And so, not to disagree, like, I could see your way too, but at the same time, like, I mean, it would honestly depend on if she catches her.
Yeah, that is a good point.
I at 70 kg.
At 70, yeah.
Sarah's there now, and I mean, she looks insane, and, Fia's been there and is just killing it in that, and so I really wanna see what those 2 would do head to head.
That's probably a better class for Sarah for sure. I think now that especially the sport is growing and there's more talent coming in, I think that'll be good to see. And then plus, people always like to see Sarah compete because she is kind of intense, and she's not afraid to get out there and be a little bit abrasive. So people do like to see that.
Mhm.
What about you, Miles? Is there a match that you would like to see?
There's a couple. One that comes to mind as far as Canadian is Courtney versus Leia.
Mhm.
I think that could be could be a very interesting match. Very interesting because I mean Courtney's just got that nasty dug in there hook, and Leia's got a nasty press, but she's also got a pretty good hook.
They'd be dead center for so long.
Yeah, those
See which one's
videos.
got the most endurance to just finally the other one peters out.
Yeah, Leia's
For
been posting those videos of her pressing those guys and stuff, and it's just like, dang, that's crazy. And they're not like little dudes
Yeah,
either, so it's like,
she's strong, really
No,
strong.
and she's truly built herself.
but yeah, she's insane now.
I mean, she was impressive 2 or 3 years ago at the East versus West qualifier. I mean, and now
Mhm.
it's just like, "Dang, girl."
Where is
Right.
she in Canada right now? Is she top 5 in Canada?
Edmonton, she'd be yeah, she should be. So in Alberta alone, she's in the top 5 on the right, and I think she's a little higher on the left. I can't remember. I know Christina Flicka is holding, I believe, the number 1 spot right now. I
They
think.
just got announced on that team together.
Yeah,
That's gonna be amazing.
Some of those teams are pretty
right.
scary, the way that they're stacked up.
But yeah, I really think that that's a really cool thing for the sport. I really do.
That's actually a cool topic too. What are your kind of thoughts on that their whole format and what they're trying to do up there? Do you like, you just said that you think it's really cool. Do you think that arm wrestling is ready for something like that? Like you can support something like that yet? Or
Yes, if the haters shut up. Like, we haven't even started yet, guys, and there's already people knocking it. Like, dude, like, sit down, settle down. It's fine. Like, it'll be fine, guys. Let's just enjoy. No, but like I said, like, I feel like this is the opportunity when I said, people need to invest in the no names, like, not saying that the people on the teams are no names in any way, shape, or form, but they are people that are known in their area, and they're people that their managers and their team captains see something in. And it might not be the household name that you would think would be thrown on a team, but it's an opportunity for them to truly shine and be seen and build up to that household name. And so I honestly don't see a negative to it, in all honesty, because I think it's something that people can get behind. We can start cheering for our teams. We can all tune in and watch. Like I think it's gonna be phenomenal, and I'm excited for it for sure.
I'm really excited to see how it shakes out. Miles, I know you've at least, gripped up with a lot of these people who are
Mhm.
going to be competing. Do you think any of the teams are like super unbalanced? Like one team is obviously just a shoe in, or do you think any of the teams have like a ringer? Because I think a lot of people bring up, remember in Game of Arms where they had Dave Chafee on
Yeah.
one of the teams and Travis Bajan? It's like, well, you have two ringers on this team, so it's like,
Right.
what's even the point? But we all know that that was a little bit more dramatic, and this is
Yeah.
real arm wrestling. But
Yeah.
do you think the teams are pretty balanced though?
I I know Alberta's is loaded pretty flippin' heavy, and they've got a lot of great guys. There's former, national champs, former world champs. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. BC's team is got a lot of great guys as well. You've got former national champ Mark Harrison, multiple champ. You've got hell. you've got a pile of great guys, and I mean the managers are great, so like they're under good instruction, and then you've got Montreal and Toronto that have got great as well. I mean, there really is a lot of great pullers, and then there are quite a few that do have multiple on their team that definitely can shake things up a bit. I don't know if I see one greater than the other because some of them, the others cancel the other one out. So, I mean, and the way that it states is, you only get to take two in that class. So your backup's not necessarily there. So, I mean, you're not going completely with a loaded gun. You got one mag sitting on the floor.
Right.
That's for emergency purposes only. But yeah, I don't know, and then I don't know too much about the American teams. I know they're
I haven't
kind of.
heard anything about the American teams actually.
I think if I remember right, there's one in Florida,
Mm.
That makes
and
sense.
there's
Chance Shaw for
Texas.
sure.
Yeah, Texas, and I think
it was Arkansas or Arizona. I thought it was
I could
Florida,
be. I'm not.
Arizona,
Arizona's super loaded,
and
yeah.
New York.
New York, yeah, and then
And then is there a Montana one?
No.
No?
I think the nearest one to Montana, other than Canada's, would be. I thought there was one like Colorado, but I think I'm
That makes
mistaken.
sense.
Which, I mean, potentially there you could have Torrey Miller, AJ Hansen. I mean, you could drag some monsters out of that depth.
Oh yeah.
Le'Aaron Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, and then they could probably fetch over into Kansas City and drag out Don Underwood or who the hell knows. I
Yeah,
mean,
they would
you
probably
could
have to
really,
do more regions in the US than just like cities or states. It'd probably have
yeah,
to be like the Southwest or something like that,
yeah,
just to make sure that the level was, because I would say Canada's actually a little bit more developed in terms of the depth of rosters than the US is, which is somewhat surprising, but again, like what you said earlier, something about the culture in America, it's a little bit, we just haven't quite found that perfect recipe to get all the Americans involved yet. But
For sure.
I think we're getting there, and yeah, it'd be exciting to see these American teams get stood up and to see who gets on them, because I could see, oh man, there's a lot of cool battles I'd like to see then. Like imagine what's his name coming out of like semi-retirement, old Mike from New York.
Ale?
Yeah, because he's such a personality, like and he's so good for that format, and he's like really like cool looking, so people want to see him, and he's not so good that he's just gonna crush everybody who comes his way.
mhm.
So yeah, I kind of like this whole system, but one thing I kind of want to touch on too when it comes to that is, do you think it would be smart for them to stick to standard arm wrestling doing this, or do you think they should maybe do a little bit of a modified rule set like some of these other leagues are doing, like the Armbender or Mac, just to keep things a little bit more, one, to give them kind of like a differentiating factor, and two, just to maybe keep it a little bit more action packed, because viewers want to see pins. They don't want to see foul, restart, strap, 3 minutes later, okay, now the match is starting. So it's like, what do you guys think there?
I think you're
So
gonna have it either way.
if I remember right, it's pretty much the same as Mac rules. So all slips go to straps.
Mhm.
And then once you're in the slip, or once you slip, then you're in the straps the rest of it. If I remember right. Somewhere I've got the rules printed out because they were sent to me. But I mean, I think for the most part, it's set up pretty good for television wise. Because I mean, it's going to be energetic as hell. And like we watched Montreal and Toronto when they did the first run back in August. I mean, they clicked along pretty good. I mean, it was ref set them up, and then it was bang, and then they were on, and then you could challenge it. You could throw your a teammate up to gain points. I mean, they did what they needed to get the entertainment value there and to keep it going and interesting. I think seeing how that went, I'm quite sure that this next one, and which, is the same for everything else. The more time you get in, the more bugs you get worked out of there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pretty soon you've got it as a nice, well-oiled machine. And, who knows? I mean, the sky's the limit with where that could end up. I mean, eventually you could get more teams, you could get bigger sponsors, the broadcasting could go like, world television or something, ESPN or whoever the hell could pick it up. I mean, and then you could, yeah, I mean, who the hell knows?
Yeah, and that's
I
actually a
was
good point because I'm gonna be having Corey Miller on again here soon, and I don't know if you guys saw the episode I did with him just recently, but he's bringing in that whole sports betting aspect using the airs
yeah.
system. So you add that with this team aspect,
Mhm.
and I think that could be a really cool boost. I will say though, before, because I know you wanted to say something, Lucky, but the one thing or the two things that I would like to not see, especially when you're coming to getting it out to a broader audience and trying to use it as a tool to grow the people, is I'd like to see just being super strict on not allowing professional fouls. I think the regular viewer just doesn't accept or like, or you see the one of the most comments you'll ever see will be like, why did I like he lifted his elbow and this and that, and like, it's like, okay, just let's just get rid of the professional fouls because one, as competitors, unless you're the one doing it, no one likes it.
Right.
And then two, one thing that, and I think you, like you said already, is I would just like to see all slips go to straps. So hopefully that is the case because we don't need to see so much, who cares if it's a foul or whatever. If they just slip, just let them go to the strap and finish the match. So that way we get a pin. And then maybe a tighter time domain on the kind of like what we do, where you get a shorter time to get a grip, just so that way there's not, because sometimes you just feel like you're sitting there forever and ever. And then like as a casual, like when I bring friends or family or like my girlfriend, she's like, well, what are they doing? Why are they just, readjusting and readjusting? Like they don't get it, So trying to take away a little bit of those, and then maybe you pepper that back in over time as the audience becomes more educated into it, But
For sure.
I think we have a lot of opportunities with this for sure. But yeah, Lucky, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just thinking, especially because it's a point system, I think the opportunity to have really good matches comes from that point system. And like, if you have a perfect setup, then your team gets all the points from your pit. But if you're fighting for the grip, or or you obviously started carved, or you obviously are, professional fouling, then that deducts your points that you or your team could have made, and then it keeps you accountable as an arm wrestler too, and it strives you for that perfect match, where you're actually working to get a decent grip and not just fighting for the pin. You're
Yes,
fighting
did
for
you?
the entire match. So that's just my opinion.
That's a great idea. And one thing I really want to see the teams do is I think one of the things that made a Game of Arms, since we touched on it, so successful is it made you care about the people because it gave you a backstory, it gave you story. I really hope they do like a meet the competitors type video series, like they all just start a YouTube channel and say, here's our team, and then they do a video on each, like they show like this is what he does for work and this is him training and this is what this match means, and like they do stuff because that's what a lot of these events I feel like are missing, is like they put all this money into, like they have like these 10, 20, $30,000 productions, and they have this great film, they have perfect picture quality and really good audio and cool effects, but then we see them disappear because the money wasn't there. But it's like you could reduce a lot of that and just have a competent, decent, good stream with a commentator desk, and then in the early super match series, get the people to care about the competitors,
Yeah.
do you like just like YouTube is free, just make an account, have, find a person and have them do a video on them and talk to them, and then find out what they do for a living, and then just get people invested and get people to like care, because then like one of the coolest things too is like, oh, that guy's, he's a pipe fitter, I'm a pipe fitter, or like, a welder, how many welders are in arm wrestling, so
Right.
there's a lot to relate there, and especially I think that's even more important, I think, for female arm wrestling, because it gives you like that emotional attachment that you really want to care about somebody more than just, oh, you think it's cool that they're doing the same thing. It's just like, because one of the cool things when we do get females on, we get to talk to them, is we get to hear a lot of the things that, and it's teaching me to be better as an interviewer, is getting like the emotional states, and then like hearing like how it feels to be in this zone, or like why it really matters, and then seeing that kind of depth there. And I think that's just great. And I really hope they do something like that. And do you guys think that there's anything else that they can do that can just really help to make sure that this is a successful thing and really grows arm wrestling?
I think that definitely would absolutely work. I mean, that makes sense, get the crowd invested, and then that way it's like, oh, okay, yeah, oh shit, when's that on, and then like
Exactly.
they want to watch it, and then it's almost going to be like a soap opera, basically. Everyone loves not everyone, but some people love soap operas, and they want to find out and tune in next week to see what the hell happened to George.
Right.
No one really knew jack shit about George, but all of a sudden now they're invested in George because why? Well, George is a plumber, and well, shit, my dad's a plumber. I want to know what happened to George. Maybe it's the same thing, and you know,
Yeah, and I
my
think
dad's not a plumber, by the way, but yeah.
And I honestly, I really think if say people can say what they will about Game of Arms and like the cheesiness or whatever of it, but I think they did the character development very like I think they did that perfect. I think they nailed that on the head, and I'd like to see something in that style. And I think that's the same reason why you see the film like pulling John. I think that was
Yeah.
so impactful and got so many people into the sport because it got you to care, And Travis Bajan, I literally have his autographed shirt, but I can't. What's the Russian guy's name? I'm completely um
Alexei
Alexei
Vovoda.
Vovoda, and then of course John Brzenk. Like it was like, man, it really got you to care. And one thing, like John Brzenk isn't known for like having like the most charismatic or like super out there personality, but he's a really likable guy because he's a very like normal person. And he thinks in a way that makes sense. And like when his wheels were turning or he said something, it was really relatable. And we just really need to see that more because again, I think that's one of the final aspects in the higher portions of arm wrestling, like with our stars of the sport, is unless they're putting on a YouTube video and curating what you see of them, that you're not really getting to learn too much about them. And it'd be
Mm-hmm.
nice to see the behind the scenes, and especially if they invested and got like, imagine if they got Devin or Monster Michael Todd or one of these other guys with a big channel and a big name to go travel around and talk to all these people and get to know them and show them, like that would really do wonders for everything. And it would show that these guys are serious about being ambassadors of the sport, which
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a topic that I would love to talk about at some point. But yeah, no, anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of these filling out these teams or this league?
Oh, lady.
Yeah. But do
There's
you
going to
think
be
there's a
some
team
definitely.
on the ladies'
Go
side?
on.
Is there a team on the ladies' side that you feel like is a little lopsided?
I think so. I mean, from what I've seen, I mean, you lay it on a team, so that automatically gives some.
Yeah.
Right.
And Christina, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Leia and Christina are on the same team, and so
Yeah.
So your Alberta's team is Peyton Pickering, who
yeah,
took
Super
sec-
good.
second or third at WAP, and then you've got Leia as your middleweight, and then you have Ambrin Drouse, who won the
Ambrin, yeah.
Junior Worlds, last year, at WAF. So you have those three. Boy, I just seen the doggone BC guys' roster, and now I can't flip and remember who the girls are.
and Lori name.
Ambrin's on Alberta's.
She okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So if Flicka's on a team, then she must be on.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because she was on. 'Cause I was looking at it too, and I saw Amber, and I know I saw Christina, I know I saw Leia, and I know I saw Lori, and so I just don't 100% remember how they were split up between the two.
I feel like when I saw, who was it, the Ontario, is that right? The Ontario team. I feel like I
Mhm.
didn't recognize any of the names on that team.
They've got a 17-year-old over there that's with the high hookers. I reffed her at the Open, and good gravy. I mean, you want to talk about talent, speed, and a nasty hit. That gal, when she gets older and stays in the sport, I mean, there's no telling what she's going to be able to do. There's quite a few of them over there. I saw there's one more.
It wasn't Dawn, was it? She's on the Vancouver team. So Dawn Powell, oh, that's her name, Lori Powell, and Christina Flicka are on uh
Vancouver's. Hmm.
Vancouver's.
That's a pretty decent class.
Yeah. And then they sent it to
Hmm.
me. Let me look at the other one. The other team was no, they didn't send it to me. Just kidding. But yeah, I had
I'm
saw it
not.
posted.
I'm not. I don't think I know much about Lori, but I know Christina's
She's
a
actually coming
powerhouse.
back. So
Yeah.
she was a world champion. Actually, she was actually one of the
Okay.
first ladies on my show. So she's was world champion back in the day. Who'd she train with? But anyway, she does a lot. She does one of like the a lot with like Mike Gould, I think it was. Was it Mike?
Cool.
I feel bad. I should go back and watch the show now. She knows all about it. But anyway, yeah, she had been out of it for a little bit, and she wasn't sure if she was gonna come back in. And we were like, go, 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 and she was just kind of doing like one tournament a year type thing. So when I saw her on there, I was like, oh snap, she dove right back in.
Yeah, actually, I do remember recently seeing someone. It might have been him. Someone just posted a video about her or like one of her matches, and yeah, super solid. You know, if there is a Colorado team too, one person that I think is not maybe super well known yet, that's probably gonna be doing some damage in the female ranks in the U.S. here is Devin Bear's daughter.
Oh,
I
Oh.
forget her first name, but she seems like she is like really coming into it and super good. And I think when some of the guys were just down there doing that practice with Brian Shaw, they were saying that
Hmm.
she's planning on stamping her name this year. So we'll see how that
And she's
goes.
heyo.
got the bloodlines for it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Although I will, I'll never, whenever I see him, I have to give Devin a little bit of trash because I tricked him. Well, I wouldn't say tricked him, but I got some sneaky practice pool pins on him. And so I like to, you know, give him a little hell on that. But yeah,
Nice.
super good pedigree. Also another team, they know how to train, super loaded over there. But yeah, the one of the last things I did want to talk about is actually something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and that is the role of our champions in arm wrestling. And you know, like I think obviously right now the most obvious, you know, person to talk about would be like Levon because he is so dominant, doesn't seem like even injury or not, like he might not be going anywhere anytime soon, you know. And I think it's really aspirational when you're just so good at something that your arm wrestling does the talking for you. But I feel like when you're a world champion of anything, then you should also be an ambassador of the sport, you know? And I would love to see Levon doing more, you know, to travel around, to really, you know, go different places, like go to New York City or go wherever, just put down a table and let people just, you know, just be in awe of like your greatness, you know, and
Hmm.
do stuff to grow the sport because you know we've seen that. And one good thing, I don't know if you guys ever followed bodybuilding at all, but you know there's a really great champion in Ronnie Coleman, and he was an
Oh yeah.
amazing, completely unbeatable champion in his prime, but he never really did a lot to grow the sport. And then people saw like Jay Cutler come in, and then he was
Hmm.
just traveling everywhere. He was always doing expos, always doing this. And the sport grew so much when he was the Mr. Olympia because he was just out there
Right.
pushing bodybuilding. And I really would like that's why it's like as much as I think Levon is like one of the coolest human beings and like the most anatomically perfect arm wrestler, and I think that's impressive. Sometimes I feel like I root for the underdog just because I want to see someone get in there and do something with the title of the best arm wrestler on the planet to really.
Hmm.
I think the main theme in arm wrestling right now in this kind of like, you know, golden or sylvan era or whatever you want to call it, where we're really growing is the growth of arm wrestling and what we can be doing to you know, as individual competitors to help ourselves by being part of the solution. And I would really just love to see a champion get out there and do more. And not to say that you can't do things when not being the champion, but I think there's something special when you can say you're the number one in the world at something. And then when you
Hmm.
go places, people listen to you and you know, you can book shows. Like I bet you like Levon or one of these, and I'm sure because Devin's been there, but you know, like Joe Rogan or whatever, like we need that type of stuff, you know?
Right.
So I just wanted to see what you guys thought about that. Like, do you think it matters at this point? You know, would you like to see Levon or just someone, you know, getting in there and kind of really ambassadoring the sport? Where are your guys' heads on this?
We don't need Levin. We got Devin.
I think Devin
I
though would be more
knew
active.
someone was gonna say that. Yeah.
I think Devin would be more active in that stuff though if he wasn't so obsessed with trying to get to the top. You know what I mean? Like
Fair.
if he got there, I think he would really. I think his gears would because I think for him he just wants to put that feather in his hat now that the sport's gotten to the level it has, and he wants to be able to prove that he
Right.
can do it. But then I think once that happens, I think he would love. I could see him traveling like, and he's done it before. You traveling
Right.
all over and just being a great ambassador to the sport.
Right. Well, it was what, 2 years ago, I think? Maybe somewhere in that vicinity. Devin was in Washington, and then he was over here, and then he was over there, and like he hit 3 or 4 clubs in Washington, and then he bounced over here, and then like he was all over, and then he was, you could do autographs, pictures, whatever the hell you wanted. Sit there and talk his ear off. I mean, he was coming around to, but I think it would be great to have that again, just to push that interest again, because I mean, you get, say, hell, even me. I mean, you see hear them guys at the top of the level that you've watched on YouTube and TV and sat there and it's like, oh my God, I've wanted to meet him for so long, and then you find out he's only a couple hours away coming down for a seminar or some damn thing. Bet your ass, I'm headed that way. I'm going to see, because I mean, in your eye, who knows when you might get to see him. And if he's only a couple hours away, I mean, there you go. And the amount of people that Devin can bring in is ridiculous. Like when I refed at the Open, I mean, it was pretty. There's a lot of people there, and we were supposed to start at 12:30, 1 o'clock, somewhere in there. 12:30, we're gonna start. No, noon. Sorry, I lied. We're gonna start at noon. 45, Devin walks through the door, and the whole place converged right by the tables,
Yeah,
and it was a crowd it just kept revolving. And it's like, well, we're at 1 o'clock. What do you what do you want to do? It's like Devin's doing autographs and pictures and gripping up with everybody, and it's like, we're gonna have to move him and his entourage the hell out of the way. We're getting going, and I mean, still we moved just under 500 um uh, um, 500 pullers altogether that day in a couple hours. But I mean, when Devin showed up, everything stopped,
yeah,
and then he was just, which it was awesome, and it was like, yo. And I mean, I couldn't talk too much because I was in there in the mix myself. I had to bullshit with him a little bit, get my
yeah,
picture taken and stuff. I mean, hell, he's like from, he's only a couple feet away, which was, it's like, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. But I mean, it was him and John were the two that I looked up to the most. And then, or sorry, and Matt. So I had three that I looked up to, and I got to meet Matt first, and then I met Devin. I still haven't met John yet, and I don't know if I ever will, maybe one day, but still, I mean, I believe that if we can get our ambassadors out there and to help push the sport, you know, I think it damn sure ain't gonna hurt us,
yeah. That's for sure.
unless they completely blow something astronomically out of the water in the wrong light, and then then you get the negative image.
That's
So
But even then, negative publicity is still bad
not
publicity.
really. No, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. That's why I like earlier when you were saying I don't like talk shit because then you might lose, and then what about that shit talk? Hey, I just use that as more fuel. Well,
There you
I
go.
just use that
right.
as more fuel.
Right.
So I don't mind at all. But no, I think just luckily with any of like the Europeans or just Southeast Asia or any of those guys winning, they're culturally they're just very respectful people. So I don't think we have to worry too much about them doing anything crazy. But at the same time, like again, because their culture is different, they don't really do a lot of that. It's like I feel like the only one of them that really gets themselves out there is um Alajon.
Mm,
He's
more go.
really active, yeah, and, puts himself out there, one of the biggest, he's like the 3rd most followed arm wrestler, and, so that's pretty crazy, but, it would just be nice to see because when, if you guys remember when Michael Todd did the, US tour where he was going around to all the
Hmm.
states, He gained
Mhm.
80,000 subscribers doing that. So, like, that grows. Like, all those people that there was probably a ton of different people just because he would go places, set down a table, give supplements away, tell people, "Hey, come up, come give this a go, come let's give this a go." And he was just pulling hundreds and hundreds of people a day, and during COVID too, so that was pretty crazy. But yeah, I think stuff like that is amazing, and I understand like there's a lot because the reward in arm wrestling, you have to invest into doing that right now because the reward really is like the monetary. It's going to be a hit on you because it's going to cost you money to do that. So it is rough. It's tough if you're not a Michael Todd and you don't have like a big supplement sponsor or someone who's paying you actual dollars to do things, you know? So I totally get that. But I think there are people in the sport now that do make the money to be able to do that. Like, I'm surprised that Ernie's isn't more because he personality wise, you think he would be more
Mm,
out there, but he is kind of reserved. And I wonder if he's fallen into that Levon track because you know Levon's really secretive. He thinks like his training, if people know my training, they'll copy me, and then now there'll be 10 Levons. You know, that's just his. You know, and I don't
right.
necessarily. I think I could do the exact same training as Levon, and I'll never be Levon. You know, but you know, because I think arm wrestling is very specific to competitors. But you know, again, I would just like to. I think people are learning more and they're seeing because you know people see Monster Michael Todd puts all this training out there. If 99.9% of arm wrestlers did his exact lifts, it wouldn't help him on the table. It just wouldn't.
No.
You know, it's all very specific, and you know, again, it's just there's so few non-standard. There's so few like creators in the space. Like there's people who
Mm.
uh you know, like us, we talk to people and we interview, or we do analysis and stuff like that, but there's not like these um full-time arm wrestlers showing their training, how they wake up, how they eat, there's a three people who do that, you know? And I would just like
Right.
to see more of it because I think that's what grows this.
For sure.
Anyway, yeah. So now that I've been yapping off on all these topics, I'm just wondering before we close out or end the show for the night, if there's any topics, Lucky, that you really wanted to talk about, anything that's coming up in the world of female arm wrestling that we need to know. If you have a really cool upcoming show scheduled with the Lucky Ones.
Yeah. Um, be on the lookout for an East versus West lady heading our way here, hopefully this weekend. So really excited. We're still narrowing down the time for that, but
Cool.
if you want to see me just drool into the mic and forget how to speak, make sure you tune into that one. And then I think in the world of arm wrestling, I have to give a shout out to the two round robins that are happening. One is Queen of the Table in Canada.
Mm.
Gina Stuckless is putting that one on. It's 160 and 160 plus. There's 12 in each class. 3 world champions are rocking it out there, as well as several national champions.
Is that the one that's all the way
Where's
in
that
May?
one going to be held?
That one's in April. That it's in Ridgetown, Ontario.
Oh, in Ridgeton. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's an all-female tournament afterwards with
Uh,
3 ladies
Mm.
classes.
or is
So
it you have a super match with Gina in May?
I do. And so in
Yeah.
May,
Okay.
then Gina just loves me so much, she's following me around. So in March, we're going to the Arnolds together. Then in April, I go to her Queen of the Table. And then in May, we finally duking it out on the table in a left hand super match. I'm currently undefeated on my left, and so is she. So
Cool.
we
That'll be a
will
banger.
yeah, hopefully it'll be super exciting or super disappointing. Hopefully the former. I'm super excited for that. And so I'll actually go against Maddie on the right hand there, Gina on the left, and then they have a round robin that I'm not a part of, but there's 8 to 9 women in both classes. That's a 154 split. And those
Okay.
ladies, yeah. I was good to be like, let me just have my super match.
That's
So
exciting. That's you know,
yeah,
especially I love matches like that because it's like one undefeated, like both of you can't be undefeated after this, so one person's gonna have to take the L. So that's like
Mm.
that could be that's a really cool build up. That just like I said, that's all. I love matches like that.
for sure.
But yeah, no, that's all sounds great. Is there anything else?
No, so just Alan Vaughn is putting on the Queen of the Wing in North Carolina. That one's in May 2nd, I believe.
Okay,
So that's good. And then ladies, please go to Worlds. All right. You got national, you have IFA in April 25th and 26th, and then you have WAF on May 16th. So US ladies, come on, let's get Team USA stacked. Let's start getting our names out there. Let's start getting the experiences, please, especially WAF with being in Canada the following year. Why wouldn't you? Let's start
Well,
getting serious amongst the elites
yeah,
and the world
you
champions.
got North American nationals, yeah, March 4th and 6th, so in Ottawa. Yeah, there's lots going on this year.
Oh
It
And I
yeah,
feels
mean,
it's hard to pick right now. It's hard to pick events.
right? In my mind, everything this year leads to next year, obviously. And it's not to sound flippin' corny either. I mean, everything this year leads to Worlds next year. Because when else is Worlds I don't think it's going to be this close again for
For a while at
a
least.
while. So,
Yeah, this is going to be the most accessible Worlds to anyone who's just not being able to go because they just weren't able to afford to go. This is going to be the most accessible. It'll still be for people in the southern states or south. It's still going to be a little bit pricey, but
for sure.
nothing like going overseas. So there's ways to get it done, and I think there's enough people interested in arm wrestling now that it's not as bad. Even just calling around your town and trying to find local businesses to give you $50, $100 here and there. There's ways to get it done, selling t-shirts. So yeah, this is going to be the most accessible Worlds probably, at least in this decade, unless the turnout is amazing, and I hope it is. If the turnout is super good and they make money, then I'm sure we'll see it back here pretty soon, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Cuz we also need to see the like the European and East Asian response, how many of them come over, or maybe a lot of them aren't going to come. So we'll have to
right,
see how that kind of effect has on it. But a lot of them are state sponsored.
Well, and I think that's something that kind of caught my ear when I was listening to Robert Baxter talking about when East versus West was going to be in Canada, and he was like, "It's a visa issue," and then that kind of set off little alarm bells of like, "Ooh, if it's a visa issue, that does affect Worlds as well too." But hey, they don't show up, more medals for the rest of us,
Yes. Yeah, then they're gonna have to defend those, so yeah, that's
right?
gonna be awesome. So many cool scenarios come up from this.
For sure.
hmm.
But yeah, Miles, was there anything big that you think that we missed or that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I mean, there's like I said earlier, there's a lot coming up in the spring to the summer. I mean, local, you've got the Armbender next weekend. I mean, and I just drew a blank on everything else.
It's
Way to
all
go. Oh, there we go. I'm back again. All right. Sorry. Short circuit. You got IFA Nationals, Vegas. Yeah, we covered
North
that. We've
Americans.
got North Americans there. You've got Tough in March. You have Battle Zone.
Battle Zone, yeah,
Uh,
that's same
same.
weekend as Armbender.
Yep. So the tournament is the day of the Armbender. However, the Battle Zone super matches are Friday the night before. So, and that'll be on United Arms TV on YouTube
Okay.
if anyone wants to check that out. I don't remember what time, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock probably.
My Valentine's is gonna be on Friday, so I won't be able to tune in for that one.
And then you've got Miles City. Um, that should be a good event this year. It was good last year too, but you got a couple super matches. It's that one. You've
Sierra
got
Covert versus Jesse Andronovic. Am I saying that right?
On Dover.
I heard
Androvic.
that Sierra wasn't doing that.
I don't think it's
Is
confirmed
it
yet if
still? Okay.
she's
Okay.
just trying to make sure she can make the time for it, but I think
Okay.
they are looking for a back.
Okay. Well, I think they might have a backup, but we'll see. And then Joe Fair versus Julian Smith on the right arm, me versus Julian Smith on the left arm for the number 9 spot in North America.
Well, yeah. Even though, like we've already talked about, you're technically already
Yeah.
there, but this will cement it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what else? There's oh shoot. And then you've got Tough in March. Can't remember what date. There's a lot of tournaments.
21st.
What's that?
It's the
21st?
21st.
Okay. Thank you. You got quite a few little circuit tournaments happening in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, Canada's really
And
busy this year too.
oh yeah,
They
yeah.
are.
And you got Through the Fingers. Can't forget about Through the Fingers.
I'm part of that one.
Nice.
Dudley Dale, you're going down, bud.
Which is in May.
May, yes.
I was gonna say.
Alberta's provincials is in May as well.
Man,
I'm forgetting a couple. I know that. But
One thing
it
that I
doesn't
kind
really
of want
matter.
to do this year is what's that really big one up in that 98 one up in
Winter Blast.
Winter
Winter
Blast.
Blast? I'm thinking about maybe doing that this year because that seems like such a good event.
March 20th.
Yeah, if I can get the time, I'm really thinking about it because it just seems like there's a lot of really good guys there, and it's like a really good way to stamp your name as like a top amateur. So
Right.
I would definitely like to kind of get in there on that. But yeah, isn't that crazy, Lucky? Miles, 2 years in arm wrestling, top 10 already.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
that's
I'm so
crazy.
here for it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a
Living
good
the dream.
storyline. Good storyline.
And my girlfriend is the one that got me into it. That's
Yeah,
the funny thing.
That's amazing.
So it was.
she needs to get back on
She's
the
a
table.
former national champion in
Okay.
Canada,
Very
and
cool.
it was, I'd never been around a tournament, only seen everything online and TV and stuff, but I was fantastic in the bar scene. Oh yeah, I was great. I was great in the bar scene. Well, it was our first date, I think, or second date. We were in the bar, and I had the reputation. Guy showed up to arm wrestle for money and drinks, and it's like, yeah, all right, let's go. She's looking at me and she's like, "What in the hell? You think that's arm wrestling? Oh, that's cute." And I went, "What do you mean that's cute? What's wrong with this?" And she goes, "Have you ever pulled at a tournament?" And I went, "No. How come?" I said, "I don't know where to go." She made a couple of phone calls. The next thing you know, I'm headed to a practice. It's like, well, this is cool. And then someone contacted me, and then I was cool. So then I went to another practice the next day. So we're practiced back to back, and then I come back, and then it was my very first tournament that weekend. So I literally had technically one day off, not really, but a few hours. And then I went to my very first tournament, and it was ready. The shit was okay. I guess I better figure this out. Got one pin, and the next one I got so torqued over that I thought everything was just exploded. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh no. And I was complaining, and it's like, are you done now? You must got that out of your system. I say, hell no, I didn't get that out of my system. I want to do this shit. Let's go after it. And so the next weekend I went to another tournament and I took second place, both
Nice.
arms. It's like, oh yeah, we're figuring it out.
that's the magic to
No,
this arm wrestling thing is like you get in there and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna grab and go, and then you after a couple tournaments and practices, you realize really quickly that there's a little bit more to it
a
than
little bit more.
just grabbing onto someone and just going sideways. So
Yeah,
it's so much
for
fun.
sure.
It's so much fun, and I can't wait to see where we end up like 4 years from now, 5 years from now, because
Oh boy.
our trajectory
Yeah.
is great. And
For
now I
sure.
think it's aspirational to get on one of these league teams. Like that's such a cool
hmm
thing to aspire to.
Definitely.
But yeah,
I
no,
got,
I'm sorry, I got to get going here soon, Miles. So we're gonna have to end it here for tonight.
nope, all good.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for having both of you guys on. Thank you, Lucky. Definitely check out her podcast. It's the Lucky One, super easy to remember, one of the coolest names in the whole podcast scene. So definitely
Thank
go
you.
check that out. And like she said, she's gonna have an East versus West competitor on here soon. So I can't wait to see who that is. Miles, you guys all know him, you all love him. Thanks again for coming on. I really like the way your mind works when it comes to arm wrestling, and just arm wrestling though, not anything else. But no, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
no.
But anyways, yeah, thank you again, guys. It was a pleasure. Link everything down below. And if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys next time.